All right, everybody, thank you for being here. How was the lunch today, the marketplace, the final marketplace? Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks for staying for our final session. It's going to be a great one. We're excited to have you here. This is going to be our dessert session with our two fabulous dessert chefs. It's called Inspired by Asia, the grand finale. And this time I don't need to introduce Francis Lam because he's already been introduced. And here, please welcome Francis Lam back to the stage.
Thank you, Kathy. Everyone's like trying to not introduce me, so I don't know what that means. Welcome back, and we lost some of you. That is so sad, because why would you lose people before dessert? This is, as Kathy said, the grand finale of these 3 days, and I just want to say thank you to the CIA. Thank you. It's been an incredible time for me. I hope for all of you. I'm a little bit sad that this is the last thing, but it's like a grand finale in like 3 parts, because there are 2 chefs, 2 demos, and then there's a dessert tasting after, and there's like going to be like a raffle and like all of it. So it's like the last 4 minutes of a college basketball game where it actually takes half the time. So don't be too sad yet, I guess. But we're going to talk about dessert. And I think dessert occupies really an interesting space in the culinary arts, right? Because it's the only part of the meal that isn't actually necessary, right? Booze, yeah, okay, but like, no, literally, it's like the only part of the meal that's not actually technically necessary to like to have like a meal. Oh, I ate food today, you know, and but so if you think about it, it's there really for pleasure, and so for a lot of guests, you know, the best thing to do is just keep it simple and keep it sweet and gooey and uncomplicated, but maybe also because it's not actually required, the pastry kitchen has been long the part of the kitchen that sparks innovation and creativity. And I think it's probably because like if dessert is an extra, then you think of it as a chance to blow your mind. And after all, you think in history, Carême, Escoffier's predecessor, was in fact a pastry chef. And in today's terms, you know, everyone knows Ferran Adrià, but I think a lot of insiders think of his pastry chef brother, Albert Adrià, as being the more purely innovative force in cooking. And so to finish our conference today, we have 2 pastry chefs who have constantly questioned assumptions and shown the world something new. They're going to blow your minds before sending us out back into the world. And first, I'm going to introduce Will Goldfarb. Will is a fascinating person, a brilliant chef, and he comes from Bali. He's not originally from Bali. And most people think of Bali as like paradise, right? But you go to paradise when you're done, right? The idea of paradise is that it's a reward in the afterlife. And Will actually went there to start living again. After winning tremendous acclaim in New York City for his pastry restaurant Room for Dessert, both business and health challenges struck him. And 5 years ago, he and his family moved to Bali to heal and to refine themselves. But there, he became inspired. After he sort of got his stuff back together, he became inspired by new settings, new collaborators, a new, to him anyway, culture, and of course ingredients that he could never imagine before. And he's developed a new pastry cuisine all his own. So everyone would like to please welcome Will Goldfarb.
Thank you, Francis. That was a lovely and moving introduction. You know, I've been a big fan of yours for a while. I demanded to go first today because following Janice is like following James Taylor, Fire and Rain. So we're trying to keep it a little bit civil here. And we're going to focus on a very simple technique. Well, it's very simple now after the last 2 years of working on it, which is a Balinese meringue, which I call Balinese meringue, which is a palm sugar meringue. Does everyone have the recipe for this?
No, in the app.
In the app. So it's in your app, which is, what's World of Flavor app? Something? You've already announced it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. I missed that the first 3 days. I must have been busy doing cooking. I think we've seen probably all week that you're seeing a lot of west looking east, although from Indonesia it seems a bit silly to think about west or east since it's exactly halfway around the world from New York. and it doesn't actually matter if you go west or east to get there. And one of the most iconic ingredients in Bali and in Asia is palm sugar, and it's also one that for whatever reason hasn't really been the most stylish for the Western cuisines that have been imported in Asia and in Asian restaurants. And Indonesia itself, actually, despite being one of the top 3 sugar exporters in the world, is also one of the top 3 sugar importers in the world, all of refined white cane sugar, which is totally ridiculous for a variety of reasons. So we decided we wanted to make palm sugar cool. And when we started learning about palm sugar, one of the things that's so special about it is it has a remarkably low pH. It's very acidic, which I noticed anecdotally by boiling it with milk to make a latte and having it curdle my milk in the pan. So it's really interesting, and I started doing some research on meringues. There's a very interesting paper on meringues by Cesar Vega called The Architecture of Pastry. And I think Karem, who Francis mentioned before, always spoke about pastry as being the form of architecture most relevant to the common man. I'm not sure if I would go that far, but we managed to put all these things together, and Cesar's research on meringue was about angel food. But what was interesting was didn't really seem to be any research on meringues, which is the whole base of contemporary pastry for 500 years. And there's actually, the recipe for a Swiss meringue actually says cook it until it stings your finger. Like there's no temperature, there's nothing that says what stiff peaks are. What does that mean? How much volume you're supposed to have when you make a meringue. So I love things like that, and I really, despite because, whatever the reason of my reputation, I'm obsessed with the classics. So for me, meringue is the base of everything. And we wanted to make something that was delicious, less sweet, easy to use and stable, and also something distinctive using palm sugar that could give a little identity to the region. And that's why we call it Balinese meringue. The 3 ingredients for Balinese meringue are water, egg whites, and sugar. The recipe, which is in your app, is, just for argument's sake, roughly a third, a third, a third. It's a little bit off of that. I can email you all, or you have it already. But basically, for anyone who's made a meringue, which is probably most anyone who's cooked at any point, a typical meringue is 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. And that's really sweet. I've seen people work for years just to make a meringue that's only 1.5 times sugar to egg white, sorry. So in our case, we decided we started at equal parts. Our mix ends up being 3.5% protein and 33% solids, which means we can churn it in an ice cream machine. So our process is very simple. It took about 2 years and like a lot of times of doing it to get it exactly where we wanted it. But what we do is we heat up, we mix our 3 ingredients together, and then we heat them up in a water bath. Are we in there? Yeah. So this is what you see right now is a basically pasteurized egg whites with palm sugar and water. We cook it to 84 degrees, which is very hot for a meringue because there's so much water and so much sugar. You can do it sous vide, you can do it in a frying pan, because at my restaurant, at the new room for dessert, we don't have anything. We didn't even have a KitchenAid we didn't have a juicer. We had a towel and a whisk. And for a dehydrator, we had the sun. I did give my staff a few Christmas presents this year because they were having to make 40 of all these desserts by hand, and it was getting a little bit difficult. But what we've got here is our pasteurized base. Camera's on? Yeah. And then what we did yesterday was we made one ahead and we froze it. Now, we don't have a freezer on stage, so I'm not sure how frozen this is now, but we're going to act natural. And we have a little bit of liquid nitrogen to help us. So this is this base frozen. So wish me luck. Normally we freeze it to -9, which is really useful. If you have an ice cream machine, you can just churn it like a sorbet. Comes out perfectly creamy, and then you whip it for 10 minutes. That's the recipe. Super simple, but it produces a meringue with 300% overrun, or triple the volume you started with, that can be re-whipped infinitely. Wow. Which is awesome. I mean, I don't know, I still think it's cool every time we make it, and we've made it like 6 times since Tuesday. And I've made it, I don't know, 1,000 times. I'm hoping that you're going to see it go straight up. First, it has to break through the ice, and if it isn't quite cold enough, then I'll add a little nitrogen. Also something I don't have in Bali. So when this doesn't work there, we don't have a blast freezer, or any freezer really. So you can see at the beginning, we're just trying to mix it. And I wanted to lead with this. I think it's really the most interesting part of the dessert. We're going to show you the finished dessert. And if we have time, we're going to show you all the components of the dessert. They're all ready to go right here. Now, this should work no matter what, but the volume is maximized if you whip it for exactly 10 minutes from -9 degrees. And then when you finish, it's at 0 to 4. So if any of you that have made cooked meringues before, you'll know that's exactly the opposite of how you make a cooked meringue, because you always whip it as it cools, which makes absolutely no sense because it's getting smaller and you're actually beating the air out of it. So that's why I don't know, we call it Balinese meringue because we couldn't think of anything it was close enough to. And it's kind of cool if you can add like something that anyone can use very, very easily. I kind of enjoy that part of pastry. So you'll see it's starting to aerate now, and the ice is being distributed. Seems pretty cold, but give it a second. It would be good if the one feature of our entire demo actually worked. I'm kind of a stickler for that. This morning we did about 30 things in 2 minutes. You'll see it coming up, but it's still a little bit grainy. While we're doing that, while that's coming up, we're just going to show you a few other fun things that we do for the dessert. This is something, the garnish for this dessert is something I call a Toblerone. Toblerone is one of my favorite candies, but it's kind of big. It's kind of awkward to put a whole Toblerone on a plate. I think Ducasse did it once. But we decided to... We decided to do something thin and elegant by taking advantage of the fact that sugar isn't fat soluble. So we use palm sugar and we just fold it into cocoa paste. That's it. We have fresh cocoa paste. We pick the beans. We grind them ourselves. We get every 3 times a week, which is, again, one of the most beautiful things about Bali and parts of Asia is that all of the fundamental ingredients for pastry are local. So imagine the difference of fresh ground chocolate, fresh ground sugar. Like, we're going to make our own sugar. And in fact, if my luggage hadn't totally exploded, we brought palm sap from the coconut palm, but it was like a bomb. So the first 3 days here, I had to wash all of it out of all of my clothes and everything else I had. It didn't survive the trip.
It wants to stay local.
So this is the easiest thing, and it's super exciting because it's really delicious and it has amazing texture. And it's one of the very few things in pastry that makes your mouth water. It's a very hard sensation to get in dessert. So that's the process. That's the process.
That's it.
And then we roll it out in between 2 acetate sheets, and we use it as a garnish, a chocolate sheet. So it's a single grain of sugar wide Toblerone. I'm going to have Manny, who's been helping me all week, show you the base of our next dough, which is a blinjo cracker. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the name's also known as emping. It's a... Oh, you can come here. It's kind of like a tree nut that has to be cooked. And yeah, you can go for it. Has to be cooked and then mashed, and then dried, and then it's fried as a sort of snack. Or you could sample one by one if you weren't so much of a cowboy like me. But as you'll see, he had his oil perfectly calibrated, and the crackers fried up. And what we do is, since there's no almonds in Bali, so we use this cracker, we fry it, sort of fry it, it souffles up, and then we grind it with a mortar and pestle until it looks like this. And that forms the base of our sablé. Now our sablé, let me just look here. Yeah, if you can get a shot in here, you'll see where that you're coming up on your meringue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Just in terms of volume, you're already at, that's a 5-quart bowl, I think. You're pretty good. But you're coming more and more and more. And I'm a little concerned with the temperature, but I'm going to let it ride for now. So our sablé technique, with a few minutes to go, we'll just plate up the dessert. So I'm going to do about 2 more things quickly, explain what we have here. Our sablé is very, very simple. The interesting feature of it is that we use our own homemade tapioca starch, which we make by grating cassava with water, squeezing it out and pouring off the water and drying the starch in the sun. So it's a really, really nice way to get an extra crispy tuile or sablé. So we use it to make shortbread. So we use it to make shortbread from the blinjo crackers, and it helps us keep the flour down. Sorry, I should show you a piece of the Toblerone. You can see the grains of just a mini chocolate bar. So this meringue, if it works from there, if you can get a shot right now, you'll see that most of the ice has melted out, and you're starting to see it be much creamier. And obviously the volume's still increasing as we go. So the other 2 components of this dessert are very, very simple. It's a simple sauce made from coconut nectar, which is a byproduct of the palm sugar refining process. And for that, we deglaze with the ingredients from our cocktail that we made for you today, or we made for me, actually. So one of my favorite, we had a guest who kept coming in and requesting boulevardiers, which is if you are or aren't familiar, is a bourbon-based Negroni. Now, we can't get any decent vermouth or bitters in Bali, so we have to make our own. And so we made our own vermouth actually today using our local aromatics, but in Bali, those are all local. All the spices are local. So we make a red wine caramel, and we mix it with a spice infusion. It takes about 3 months for the spices, 3 months for the mix, and then we age the cocktail together. So for today, we actually made an aged boulevardier using Hibiki from Suntory, which is one of my favorite whiskeys and the nicest one we have in the restaurant. So do you want to grab an ice cube? Yeah, we're looking pretty, is that been 10 minutes? Pretty darn close, right?
Yeah.
So we made where's my bottle? Excuse me. Well, I could serve you. Do you want some ice with that?
I'm all set. Not while I'm working.
That's right. Well, just someone has to quality control. It's quality control? Yeah.
And stop working.
I've never seen Anne drink alcohol before, but this will be novel. Yeah. Haven't seen you have a drink since New York.
We'll always have New York.
So this is our aged boulevardier to go with our sugar refinery dessert, which is built on our Balinese meringue. And we're about to plate up the dessert now. If one of my assistants would be so kind as to bring a little mangosteen sorbet. There's one technique. Nice work, guys. Cheers. Cheers, CIA. Thanks to all of you for coming. We've got 2 more techniques that we didn't go all the way through on because we have 4 minutes to go, and I want to give Janice a little bit of space. One of them's a palm sugar chantilly. Super simple, cream, palm sugar, and a little bit of iota carrageenan. We boil it, we let it set, and then we whip it. And we're going to put that in a piping bag. That's going to be the first part of our dessert that goes down on the plate. So would you like to pass me the materials for the dessert, please, dear? Don't worry about the ice. Just set it on top of the glassware. Taste okay?
This is great.
So the recipe, which you'll find on the app, includes our recipe for bitters from mangosteen peel, which... Did you bring the mangosteen peel? No? That's okay. Are we familiar? Is everyone familiar with mangosteens? So the peels are actually like a superfood, but also the yield of a mangosteen is quite low. So when I was working at Coup d'etat and we were doing 300 servings of sorbet a day, we needed about 10 kilos of mangosteen to make one batch of sorbet. So you get a lot of peels, and we didn't know what to do with them. So and then we looked it up that they're unbelievably good for you. Like they're actually sold as medicine, the powder of the pith. We learned it because one of our cooks was preparing it for his brother in a blender to make, because he had an immune deficiency disorder. So we saw him doing this homespun remedy. This is our palm sugar cream. And that's what gave us the idea to start making the bitters. You can see the structure of the chantilly because of the carrageenan. You can pipe it ahead. It's very pliable. It's very elastic. And it's a one-step Bavarian cream without any egg. Why don't you pass me the tray with all of them? So, yeah, that would be lovely. Thank you. Because that one's warm. Easy. So this is our coconut nectar deglazed with our Boulevardier aromatics. And we're getting to where we can make our own sugar now, but to be honest, I think sometimes it's better leaving things to the professionals. And the professionals who make our sugar are Big Tree Farms, whose products are available on Amazon.com or in their Oregon warehouse. So again, going back to the classics, this is really our version of a millefeuille, but a little bit on crack. So we've got our blinjo sablé with fresh homemade tapioca. We've got our Toblerone of ginger palm sugar, our palm sugar cream, caramelized nectar with Boulevardier, our sorbet from fresh mangosteens. And we are fighting a losing battle against the destruction of the canal. So I can't help but just throwing a little half of a canal in there. Can I have a bigger piece, please, so it's more impressive? Thank you. And you're very welcome to taste. So this, not only can you whip this meringue, dry it, freeze it, eat it as is, this is from the dehydrator, and you can see the actual bubble from the evaporation of the water from the egg whites. So this is our version of the sugar refinery here at Worlds of Flavor, 2015, I think, 2015, with our homemade Boulevardier. And this is our Balinese meringue with seconds to go. Can we see our...
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is totally crazy. Now, we were going to get all fancy and do a nitrogen poached floating island, but we're at 0 minutes, 0 seconds, and I'm going to let the stage over to Janice. And if we have a little free time later, you'll see that this is like an absolutely magic substance. Hopefully worth your time sharing with us today. And I'm going to hand it over to the... Well, are you going to introduce her?
Yeah.
Sorry, you're going to hand it over to Frances. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thanks to the CIA. See you in Bali.
Yeah. That was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you, Chef Goldfarb. That's crazy, dude. They cooked the meringue before they whipped it. Does anyone else think that's crazy? That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. So next we have Janice Wong. And it's funny, you may have seen her in her painting installation in the marketplace for the last couple of days. And it's funny because I think the cliche is that Asian cuisines don't have really much dessert to speak of, and few people think of those traditions as being stellar. And I suppose it might take a little while for me to convince you of the glories of sweet red bean soup. But it won't take Janice Wong long to convince you that one of the world's most creative pastry chefs comes from Singapore. At her restaurant 2 a.m. Dessert Bar, she serves classics like cheesecake with smoked tofu soup or red miso caramel with mustard crumble. And her training took her to some of the world's most important kitchens in Europe and America anyway. She worked for a while with the famous Spanish chocolate maker Oriol Balaguer, Pierre Hermé in France, Grant Achatz and Alex Stupak in Chicago. But she returned to her native Singapore to push the boundaries of what dessert can be. And I would love for us to welcome Janice Wong.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Okay, so just give us a second to set up a little bit. I'm just going to put the chocolate paints here. I'm not sure how many of you have actually gone downstairs to see the art. Yesterday, if you've seen it, it was very different. This morning I woke up and I saw the art and I felt, hi Will, good to be with you on stage again.
Can't compete. Maybe when you're done.
So I have enough space. I'm good. So basically, when I saw the art this morning, it was heavily destroyed by a lot of people yesterday, which is beautiful because it's still art, and that's the beauty of art. And I felt so inclined to actually take out some chocolate and work with the team, and we went organic. We just basically took chocolate, we took marshmallows, we made it fresh. We just went with our spirits, and we made a new piece of art today. I think it's still downstairs if you want to catch a glimpse of it. But it's edible, and the idea of edible art came about 4 years ago when I had to launch my book, and I'm going to pass out the books. So we have 3 black. I will pass out all of them. We have 4 perfection books to pass out for you to browse, and 2 dim sum books. So I had to launch Perfection and Imperfection and feed 400 people, and I wanted to feed everybody with the same experience. So instead of giving you the spoons and the desserts in smaller portions, I decided to basically kind of take all the dishes in the book by pages and throwing onto the ceiling and the walls and the ground. So it was an entire edible exhibition. I started as a hobby and now it's become a business. So it's gone to be pretty interesting. So yeah, while you're browsing the book, I'm just also going to explain a couple of dishes that I'm doing today. Yesterday I did a demo with Chef Ryan, and we were talking about Singapore and how progressive it's become. What are Asian ingredients? What are Singapore ingredients? For us, we have only one season. So basically, we get everything. We're privileged enough to have everything from France, from Japan, from all over the world. We have very few farms in Singapore because land is so expensive. So for us to do farm-to-table cuisine is almost impossible. We're very, very limited to what we have locally grown in Singapore. But we have access to a lot of good Asian ingredients. So for example, when we're doing our pandan kaya dessert here, and when we got the pandan, we actually work with a farm in Singapore up north in Serangoon, and we take these fresh pandan leaves, and they're bigger, fresher, and shorter, and a lot of flavor. Whereas this one here, we've got it all chopped up here, so you can see, but it's still a little bit different from what we get locally. But we have to also make do with. I see the espresso. I'm doing something fun today. I have no recipes, so that's gonna be really fun today. So just taking raw ingredients. Pandan is something we use a lot in our desserts. We have it in ice creams. We have it in we eat it for breakfast. Pandan custard with toast and butter. So I started this thing where, about 4 years ago, after the Perfection and Imperfection book came out, I wanted to create a lot of desserts with no references. So one of the dishes that was featured yesterday was a plum cassis ball. We did guava and starfruit. We basically took a lot of raw ingredients and made a beautiful dish out of it. Again, no references, so just taking raw ingredients and making something. Very much like, very, very unlike pastry chefs, but just going with the spirit, and I wanted to show you that today. So I'm just going to quickly do it. We got the Vita mix, and blend this up. So just chopped up pandan leaves. I'm going to make pandan juice. I'm just going to blend it all together, and I get the fresh juice. Great. You can throw it in. So just going to go by taste and not by weight.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
That's even crazier
It's my
than
first time
cooking
doing
a
it here
rind
too
for
on stage, so I'm a little nervous, but it's gonna be cool. Because that's how we create as well. That's how we create our recipes. We have references and we don't have references. One of the inspirations was I challenged myself to create a curry. But back home in Singapore, we have like an array of curries. I know what's inside a curry, what makes a curry good. So when I had to make a curry, which is a broth of spices, I was very tempted to put in like a dash of coconut milk or some bay leaves or turmeric powder, galangao, all these great flavors. I was very tempted to do that, but I resisted and just went again with no reference. But it was so difficult, and it was a failed attempt. Also because every time I'm tasting something, I built a huge flavor bank of memory bank of flavors, and that for me assists me to actually create on the spot. So I have espresso here because I saw the machine outside. So we're gonna make a pandan custard espresso dish. So just when the pandan juice is freshly mixed up, I'm just gonna put in the items here. Okay, so CK will help me with this. Yeah, we just throw it inside here. Okay, no recipe, so let's go ahead and do this. All right, I'm gonna get some eggs. So we're making a custard. What's that? Oh, okay. So we just punch in plum sugar. I'm gonna put in maybe 4 eggs, I think. So what makes a custard? Ooh. So what makes a custard is actually, eggs, sugar, and some cornstarch, and then you have your flavors. So be it pandan, or be it gula melaka, or even popcorn custard, vanilla custard. The base is the eggs and the sugar, and the inspiration actually came from when I hosted Will Goldfarb in Singapore. We go way back. I was interning with him 10 years ago. And I hosted him, and we did a fairy tale dinner. And I had to research on all the fairy tales. So I watched a documentary, and I watched Hansel and Gretel. And it thoroughly inspired me when the mother basically went out to the garden. She took milk from the milkman. The milk came in. And she had some flour. She had some eggs from her chicken, and some sugar, and she put it all together and threw it into the oven, into this like fire, and out came custard. It was a fairy tale. It was something so simple, but that is creativity without references, and that's cooking. So I took that inspiration, and I was like, God, I'm going to make a lot of dishes based on that, and have fun with it. Yeah. So I'm just going to put a dash of sugar, not too much. All right. Espresso. Okay, a little too much. Pandan juice, we'll sieve it out. Yeah. And a little bit of coconut cream. All right. So we'll pass this around, and we'll see how different it's going to taste from, the one with recipe and without recipe. And I know we've got 2 types of starches here today, cornstarch and tapioca starch. So we make a lot of our custards with cornstarch. back in Singapore now, we just launched a new dessert shop called it's called Janice Wong, but we have about 100 over pastry items. So no longer just experience on the table, but now you can take home. We have marshmallows and pull out. So we have marshmallow paintings in unit forms. Chocolate paint is one of the. We have 38 colors in our shop, so you can actually buy these chocolate, melt it down, and have fun with it. And we have so many people Instagramming on this chocolate paint already. So you can see how beautiful it is. That the color is really gorgeous. So when you juice it fresh, you take it fresh, and you just pour a little bit inside. I think I might need a little bit more sugar and coconut milk. All right. Here we go. It looks like I have no idea what I'm doing. Let's go. We're gonna send out the. We're actually gonna send out the dish already soon. Yeah. Okay. And I'm gonna plate up the dish. So. Smells great. You know, and I love it when, you know, last time, I mean, we've been doing demonstrations for so long. I'm just gonna let this run. So we've been doing demonstrations for so long and always weighed out, always in unit forms, you know, and it's so rigid. And I love this. I love totally just taking ingredients from behind, seeing what's around us. This is something new. You know, it's a pandan custard with espresso. Right. I think in Singapore we would call it kopi kaya. Cool. And now I'm going to plate up the dish. Thank you. So we made pandan yogurt. From what's inside there, we made two textures out of it. Just taking the pandan, mixing it with fresh yogurt. And then we've got some coconut foam here. If you have the app, I was actually going through it yesterday. It was actually really cool. I saw the recipes being featured on yesterday's demo. So all the recipes today, plus yesterday's dishes, are in the app. So we got that.
And also asked me to tell everyone that they will also be on the World of Flavor website in a few weeks. So if you don't have the app, you'll get an email telling you when they're on the website.
Temperature, we'll bump it up. So we're cooking it now at 200 or 180 Fahrenheit, about 80 degrees. I don't know the conversion, but 80 degrees we cook it, and high speed. So it takes about maybe 7 minutes to cook a custard, depending on how much tapioca starch and cornstarch I put in. Yeah. And we'll have the ice cream. I know we have a surprise for you coming up. I'm very excited. The team has been working very hard on your surprise as well. That's the grand finale. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be really exciting. Awesome. Okay, so what we got there, what's inside there, we made it into an ice cream as well. We made it into a really nice ice cream. Serve their dessert already. And then more coconut texture on it. It's never been plated like that before. I just did it as it is. We're going to see how this is, and we're going to pass this all around. Okay. It's still cooking. So while that is cooking, and we're going to pass this around, I believe you're going to have all your desserts sent out shortly. And one more thing I wanted to say was actually today, I was reading the app, and then I saw a whiskey and dessert tasting after this. And I was like, really? Like, I didn't really think so much about it because it's pandan. And pandan doesn't really go super well with whiskey. So we have a surprise for you and 2 things. We've got really nice, can I get a tray of chocolates? The black and the red, yeah. So we've got really beautiful chocolates that we made from Singapore. One is a chili chocolate bonbon. And the other one is gula melaka kaya. So whatever it is inside here is also in there. So that's what you'll be tasting later. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? Yeah? Okay. So the red one is chili chocolate, chili padi. So you get the taste of the chocolate first, and then after that you get the spicy note at the back of your throat. Gula melaka, we use darker palm sugar and infuse pandan into it. And this is our new wax seal mold with our signature on it for Singapore. So it's Singapore Signature Series 1, number 2, and then 3, 4, 5 is launching next week. Cool. So you get to taste this later. And one more surprise is, you know, I love it how things are so organic. And when I was downstairs, you know, at the exhibition, I saw a miso stand. I think there was someone doing miso with from Korea. And I took a bag of miso and we started making miso caramel at the back. So we've got one more extra dish, and I think the miso caramel is going to go really well with the whiskey tasting later. So they come in the little small pots. Be sure to take that. It's red miso caramel infused with a little bit of eggs. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather cook with a little bit of eggs. All right.
Chef, may I ask you a question?
We good with time?
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
So a lot of chefs I talk to will describe their creative process and how they approach creativity, and often they take something they know, maybe it's a form, or maybe it's a recipe, it's a ratio, and then they tweak it. So it's always about taking something and tweaking it slightly. So the opposite of what you're talking about, cooking with references. So can you talk a little bit why it's important for you to cook instinctively like
I'll
you've
tell you
done?
something. This is the most difficult thing I've ever done. I think I've done 5 books. All 5 of them are with references. The next book I really want to work on is no reference. So everything's going to be completely unique to you. I always thought to myself, if Ferran were to call, you know, his spheres or his bubbles something else, he called it the ravioli. And then soon after he did that, every single restaurant started calling it the ravioli. But if he called it babu or something, you know, everybody would start to do that too. So it takes a lot of education, it takes a lot of time, but it takes a lot of, I would say, someone to be really daring to do that. Oh, we're going to blend this up, hand blend it up. Yeah. So this is what is it, and after that we're going to hand blend it. And let me taste it first. And then it becomes really nice and smooth. So, okay. I have a first taste of a no reference custard. Oh, it's actually really good. You got a stick? Okay, cool. I'm going to pass this around. Be sure to taste it. It's really unique. I would say I would go a lot more with a bit more pandan. Yeah, the coffee overpowered it a little bit, so it's more of a coffee pandan custard. But it's pretty cool. I mean, the coffee, the espresso is freshly pulled just now. You know, pandan juice is there. So everything is really nice. Now, having said that, back to no reference. I did a class before as well, where I was teaching, you know, just a lot of desserts and different ideas. But the last dessert I did, and imagine, you know, it's a hands-on workshop, 10 chefs. You're looking at putting yourself on the line. And I basically did a dessert with them based on no references. So we took cheese. We took what we knew of each ingredient. So what did the eggs do? What did the starch do? What does the sugar do? So all of us came together. We took what we knew and we basically made a dessert, a beautiful dessert based on no references. I believe that would be the future. And if we continue, you know, with this education and with people just going organically, with reference and no reference, it would really spark even more creativity. And I mean, basically we did this right now, and if you took what you saw and you could make something even better, why not? I mean, that's the beauty of cooking, I feel. Yeah. So, surprise is coming out soon.
Yeah.
I see it
Yeah,
Can I get my? I'll get my surprise. So this is the dish. I'm just gonna put it up in front here. I'm more excited with the surprise than the dessert. and I have my hammer. All right.
Oh my God, it's your birthday.
So basically, I think Caddy invited us to make some balloons for you guys. Oh, that's really sweet. So here we go. We're gonna send out the balloons. We're gonna have the crowd smash it, break it, and I'm gonna send this down because I don't want to break this balloon. I'm gonna send it down to the crowd too. And have them break it. There are different stuff inside each of the balloon. But yeah, please taste the balloon. Have fun with it. Alright, I gotta Instagram this. Here you go. Take a photo. Yeah, go ahead. Oh my god. I'm nervous for you. Oh! It's meant to be on the floor and stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. The one who has the yellow balloon this is really awesome. It's passion fruit and chocolate. The rest is white chocolate with mini surprises inside. But yeah. It has raspberry Rice Krispies inside there. So. Cool. So we're gonna pass it around so they can taste it, eat it. Yeah. And that's a new way of eating chocolate too, and a new fun way of eating, tasting chocolate.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Janice Wong.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So be sure to taste this. Back, where would they be tasting this? Downstairs? Or something?
Anne is like going to the helium tank right now.
Downstairs?
Where are we tasting all the desserts?
We're going to taste in the back of the room, but Kathy and I will come back and
Oh, okay.
say a few
We're gonna have
words.
official instructions before we taste the dessert.
No, go ahead and pass those around and taste while we're doing our final announcement.
Pass around the edible balloons. This is the sentence I'm actually saying right now. Pass around the edible balloons, and then we will come back with. They'll come back with instruct. I don't know. See you later.
Okay, are we going up? We have to go.
Yeah. You good? It's Friday afternoon. We're going to have walk-up music, but we'll just do without.
You need help?
We will taste more desserts in the back. Chad, is my mic on? Perfect, thank you. So we've come to the end of our 17th annual Worlds of Flavor Conference, Asia and the Theater of World Menus. It's always a bittersweet moment because we've all spent so much great time together during the week, but we were going to acknowledge a lot of people whose work makes all of this possible. And we want to also first show you a brief video that recaps those 3 great days we've spent together. And then a final version of that video will be posted on the website next week. And stay here because we will also raffle off this great packet of conference registrations. So if we can have the video, the recap video.
Bueno,
So as
tenemos
Ann
Diego
mentioned,
acá.
we have a lot of people to thank and a lot of people to acknowledge to execute this conference. And I'd first and foremost really like to thank our grand presenting sponsor this year, Suntory, and all of our sponsors for this program who really make it possible for all of us. Cheers. And of course, we'd like to thank, oh, you're next.
We'd like to thank all of our presenters who've come from near and far to share with you their knowledge, their skills, their passion, and their traditions, and their amazing cuisine. We'll just clap for everybody.
Yeah. And in terms of staff to put this thing together, it really does take a village to make it happen, to develop it and execute it. Lots of planning for over a year goes into this, and we really want to acknowledge some of our team members. And I'd really like all of our CIA team members to come up to the stage now, and we're just going to announce a few departments.
We'd like to recognize all the people who work tirelessly backstage, literally, and in the kitchen and everywhere, starting with our special events team.
And our Sodexo building management team.
Our purchasing department.
Our education staff.
Our culinary staff, including the backstage team and the teaching assistants.
Our strategic initiatives team, including our conference executive chef, Scott Samuel, and including our incredible logistics guru, Christina Adamson, without whom none of this would be possible.
So they are clearly being very shy, and they're standing in the back right there, so clap for everyone there.
But we... And also, at the top of our list, all of our faculty and students who worked all week tirelessly with our presenters and sponsors. Please give them another warm round of applause.
Should we do this?
Yep.
All right, and now the moments you've all been waiting for. Who will win registration to next year's Worlds of Flavor, Menus of Change, and Rethink Food?
All right.
Victor Soberani.
All righty, here we go. Marilyn Costin. Woo-hoo. We'll stay in touch with you and get you all connected to register for all those conferences. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who answered by registering for the conference. We look forward to seeing you at all of these great programs regardless, of course.
And thank you all for coming. Thank you all for staying. And please stay and enjoy the wonderful dessert and whiskey tasting provided by Chefs Will and Janice, our CIA chefs, and Suntory in the back of the room.
And we want to wish you all safe travels and hope to see you again next year, April 20 through 22nd, 2016, as Worlds of Flavor goes on fire and travels to Europe and the Americas.
Thank
Have a
you
great
all.
weekend. Thank you for
so much,
coming.
everybody.